Hey, I always got to double check and make sure it's turned up because sometimes when certain people talk, I have to turn it down. Welcome, you guys. I'm going to be quick. I was reading through the files last night and I always find new parts to come and tell you. And today is definitely about something that I feel, uh, blows a hole in the media story again. Pretty wide open. So let's listen. The file that I'm going to read from right now is the electronic file ICR number 160125559, statement from Michael Todd Schulenberg. Note that it doesn't say Dr. Michael Todd. It just says Michael Todd Schulenberg. And then it has a date of 5/11/16 and it says KKR on the side, just so you can see the bottom if you're interested. Anyway, you guys know the story, so I'm going to cut right to the chase. Dr. Schulenberg's testimony, he's talking to the detective and he says, yeah, so on the 8th, Marone texted me at lunch and said, could Prince talk to you? And then for about 10 minutes later, Prince called me and I spoke to him on the phone for about 15 minutes and just reviewed some symptoms that he had been complaining of on the 7th. Those symptoms had improved after the IV fluids, and then we just kind of talked about a plan. So we just kind of talked about that, and I offered to see him again and do some blood work if he felt that was necessary, but we just kind of left it at that. The detective Nelson says at that. He says, and then my next contact with him was on the 21st. This is not my point. We'll get there. The 21st, yesterday. This is what his statement says. Michael Schulenberg said, and then my next contact with him was on the 21st, yesterday. That's just one statement. Detective says, okay, where I got to look at I don't read, Kirk contacted me. Okay. Here it comes, you guys. Listen in. This is what he says. By text. And let's see here. Or actually, I had talked to Kirk I think on Wednesday. Yes. And then we had talked about having Prince come over for kind of an assessment, maybe some blood work. And on Thursday at 7 p.m. And then it happened actually at 5. Kirk got in touch with me and then he came in. Kirk and Prince came over to the office at 5 p.m. Now, stop right there. He said Thursday at 7 p.m. He couldn't have been referring to Thursday the 21st at 7 p.m. You guys, that's not possible. Listen again if you missed it. He says that they talked about having blood work done, and that and then on Thursday at 7 p.m. and then it happened actually at 5. So they're trying to make us think that he was brought into the office at 5, and that's what we saw on the CCTV and everything like that, and they're cutting and pasting. But you guys have got to understand what he's saying. He said that he was supposed to do the assessment, maybe some blood work, and on Thursday at 7. So what he was referring to, I believe, was Thursday the prior week. Now, if you don't believe me, let's keep listening. What's coincidental about that is on the 14th, they want us to believe that's when the Moline and everything like that happened. But on the 14th also, about 5 p.m., we have Kirk's cell phone records here, where on the 14th, he contacts Stephen Kajel, as I exposed before, of Aviation Lifeline, pardon me. Aviation Lifeline, I believe, is another, I don't know if it's an LLC or a DBA or not. I didn't look, but it's like helicopters and little planes for people that need life-saving services. So I find it strange that Dr. Schulenberg's statement, as well as Kirk's phone call to Stephen Kajel, and we're to believe that the Dassault Falcon 990 was the one that made the emergency landing. But on the 14th, which we're still talking about here, Dr. Schulenberg said, and then Stephen Kajel was, now check it out, you guys, also on here, just to remind you, When the detectives on ICR number 16000, that's the DEA's reports, and the other one's 12559, they said that they had to decipher Kirk's records in UTC time. Now let's remember what they said. On 9/14/16, I went through Kirk's cell phone records from 4/14 to 4/15. Those are the same days we're talking about. The AT&T records were provided in UTC time, Universal Standard Time or something like that, which is 5 hours ahead of Central Time and 4 hours ahead of Eastern Time. According to the flight times on 4/14, the flight to Atlanta left Minneapolis about 2:32 and arrived about, what would that be, 5:30, because they use military time. In order to obtain an accurate record of the time the calls and text messages were made, I need to subtract 5 hours from the time Kirk Johnson was believed to be in Central Time and 4 hours from the time they were believed to be in Atlanta, Georgia Eastern Time, in order to obtain accurate times. Now, in case you guys haven't been following the story, why on earth would Kirk's phone records be in UTC time? Now, there's a couple of options. There's the GPS SIM cards like Renville and other people might be using, and they're switching around and getting lost and forgetting that they're translating Kim Pratt's and Renville's. I've explained it. But anyway, now also, you guys, on the 14th, don't forget that when Kirk woke up, I talked specifically, there's like 12 or 13 phone calls, texts that come in to him from Let's Roll Film and Video, Oh My God, Media Solutions, Marilyn Coulter, all kinds of peoples that hit him up on the 14th as if they already had something planned, obviously. So anyway, I'm going to try to stay on track with the 14th, you guys, because I have it all written down here. Back to Schulenberg, his testimony on line 2, he says, he was complaining of like numbness and tingling in one of his legs. I think it was his right leg, and the numbness and tingling in his hands. And then he had some vomiting the night before that he had attributed to some soup he had eaten. Okay. I mean, and Nelson says, you didn't do any, Schulenberg says, look around to see if there was any vomit or stuff like that. Now, what had happened when you're reading this file, sorry, my nose itches every time I come down here to talk. I don't understand it. Anyway, so he's talking about what he had treated him when he had spoke about the soup. Okay. And then they lapse into some weird conversation about how did they walk around to see, was there any vomit? And then they go right back to talking about, and then at any time did Prince tell you, right back, like nothing even happened. Brain lapses. Anyway, so the reason that that's important is because with the soup, you guys, and in reading the file, now granted, you can say a person could have soup any day of the week or whatever, but we are talking about the Prince Rogers Nelson death investigation, are we not? So it's interesting that as we're still, from my point of view, talking about all of this stuff happening on the 14th on purpose, let's go on to where it says, who picked up the soup? Where did it go? Hold on 1 second. I had it right here in my little line. They were talking to Renville, and I had it right here, doggone it. I must have left it upstairs. Renville, Wellington. Oh, here it is, right in my hand. Anyway, I wrote over it, so bear with me just 1 second. Something, according to, still had no knowledge of Prince's drug addiction. Renville told me that he had never been asked to pick up anything for Prince other than food. That evening, 4/14/16, Renville told me that he had picked up ginger soup for Prince from the theater's kitchen. Renville told me there was a lot of contact between he and Kirk Johnson on or around the Atlanta concert, and explained that his phone service plan did not cover travel in the U.S., so he had the cell phone number while he traveled to the United States. Renville advised his new cell phone carrier, GoPhone, allowed Renville to use his cell phone throughout the world so that he still had the blank number, just didn't use it. That's where we're talking about the GPS phone chips that they use. And isn't that just getting more enticing to know that these things happen? Paisley Park is in your heart. Anyway, so we're on to the 14th, you guys. They're still working with the 14th. And then, of course, we know that the plane was supposedly went down on those days, and there was the misconstrued hospital stays and everything like that. But don't you guys, like, you got to be on the same page with me by now. I wish that I could come here and give you the whole story and just lay it down and say, look, here's the answer. But I myself have the fun and pleasure of seeking for it as well. It's like with the Bible, I believe if the Creator gave you the answer all at once, what fun would the search be? We wouldn't have Nancy Drews, and we wouldn't have, the Hardy Boys, or we wouldn't have anything. And none of us probably that love all things Prince Rogers Nelson in the world that we thought, we want to do this. And so it doesn't matter how small some people think the tidbit is. This is huge, you guys. When you put the pieces together, put the right letters together, as we did in the videos the other day, you'll soon come to understand. Some people say it's just like when any other rock star died, Nirvana or Whitney or Michael or whatever. Yeah, we know the NWO kills them, blah, blah, blah. So what? What do you mean, so what? Do you mean so what that they took the Creator's Hebrew language and broke it all down into Greek and then English and then connected it in a way that not only would it spell out the hijack of 9/11, but then of course with MNO, those are the initials for Minnesota. It's MN. It's the Mickey Mouse show. It's Disney is Mickey, Minnie Mouse, Minneapolis. It's this whole operation. And I know it sounds big, but it is big. And it's just going to get even bigger from here. And I hope that you guys are enjoying learning. I'm not going to be too wordy today. This probably would be my shortest video ever. Let me think to myself if there's anything else I want to say. You guys, the whole thing about, Theo London saying that he planned the after party on the 14th, but he didn't attend. So let's just hypothetically say that something happened to someone, because thus far we have no identity. Prince, in the Beautiful Ones book, Prince Roger Nelson's birth certificate says Prince Roger Nelson. We've talked about how when you go online at the Minneapolis and you look up the names Prince Rogers Nelson, it comes in the form of Prince Nelson, Roger Nelson, Prince Nelson. Then his marriage to Manuela, I think, says Prince Rogers Nelson, but it's the only one that says Rogers Nelson. So yet and still, we don't know who we're talking about first and foremost. So that's the purposeful trickery, white glove, Eminem 33rd degree on the side, Eminem, Mickey Mouse players playing Mickey Mouse games. And it's our job as human beings to give what the Creator gave us, not only in the Bible, but in this investigation, to find him, to seek him, to let him show himself to us, and to listen closely. The reason that they kill or have their hand in these events, the NWO with the music industry and stuff like that, is because of the money that's made there, you guys. The way I was hearing it when I woke up this morning, I think I was dreaming about it or something. He was telling me that in the way that his intellectual property, his brain, his I am music, I will create for you, I will be Violet the organ grinder and slave for Warner Brothers and all the other, and make you as much money as possible, not only as Prince Rogers Nelson, but as many musicians along the way as are a great deal of things regarding musicianship in the background that the world doesn't know anything about. It's why they say that angels sing in heaven. Has a lot to do with that, though. I can't remember all that right now. But by giving the intellectual property for such a time, it was to it was his payback to stay alive, but he had to stay alive in order to get this message to the stalker that listened for 38, almost 39 years. And I know there are people listen too, you guys, but again, in my life after life, we laugh all the time that just like I thought everybody in the world thought like me, I was like, thought everybody was good. And they're like, no. And I was like, I thought everybody listened the way I did. I thought everybody heard the music and felt the music the way I did. It was all for a reason. It was so that I would hear it. It was from ancient days. It took so much investment and so much time and so much work from him. That's why people say he worked tirelessly and things like that. Again, not only that, you guys, but I was told, again, I mentioned it before, but I'm going to mention it again in case you missed it. When you open up the magazines and they call him the Scream Machine and things like that, those were screams of pain that were purposefully given to him by the gatekeepers, and they were sounds of his own torture and passion and things that he was made to intermingle into the songs as another form of torture. So it's not quite the same listening to some of the songs anymore. I fast forward and jump around, and I want you guys to be aware of that too. I don't know if so many people are familiar with body language, and there used to be a show on TV called Lie to Me. There was a guy he was like a body language expert or whatever. And I don't know, check it out. You can always, I could tell when somebody's lying. So anyway, I made my own thought slip. Just one second. I totally lost what I was going to say on that. I used to get all embarrassed when that happens, but now it happens. So as with the gatekeepers, they wanted him to work as Violet the organ grinder, tirelessly and in torture for the bloodline that was, I would imagine, as I'm hearing, but don't want to say, made as with the Accujack, I would assume, the Merovingian vampiric bloodline. They want to be Davidian in nature. They consider themselves as such. They run throughout the Illuminati and the occult. I know the stuff I'm saying sounds a little trippy, but think about ancient souls, you guys. Think about how what we've been sold in the media as vampires are souls that live forever. It goes to why the Kingdom Hall there uses Genesis, I believe it's 9:4, Leviticus 17:10, and I think Acts 15:29, if I'm not mistaken. And they all have to do with blood. It's why there was a sacrifice of animals back in the days, because they went from feasting on people to animals, and then there was a complete shutdown of that in some way. And the beasts that were left to roam the earth were made to promise that they wouldn't do such things or something like that. And then they went to being crazy and bottling blood and storing it in New York. And you know how things go with pedophilia, and I don't even know what they call the whole blood banking, children's blood and stuff like that. It goes really deep and it's really disgusting. And like I said, when you take a walk on the Matrix side, the things that I've seen, heard, been exposed to, both in my life, after life, and my visions, aren't always jolly and skipping through the meadow. Okay. It's just not. And when I stood there and I was shown things both horrific and things that one day will be perfected, made to know that this reality that we're in is just a practice. It's a false reality. If you watch Elon Musk, he'll tell you, how do you know you're not in a virtual reality? You are. It's like that. Yes, we feel ourselves. We do, you guys. But I'm telling you, there's a whole nother world out there, that there's another you, like, out there, that you need to be your best self, because that whole thing interacts with the whole universe. And you don't want yourself telling on yourself when you stand in heaven's court like I did. That's why you got to be honest. I don't say everything right, but I mean it. I know I went from talking about the investigation to that stuff, but it happens. And man, I have people on YouTube and people on Facebook and my Pride Piper website and stuff trying to mislead and confuse and draw me away. And In this world that we're in, you guys, the Facebook, it's why they call it meta. And it's why the meta is shaped like an eight. You know, it's the infinity, it's the 808. It's Facebook is, you know, it's basically like a collective consciousness. And um, it's, I think from what I heard, or if there was some disastrous type future where people took the RFID chip and went to having their intellectual property enslaved contractually by taking that RFID chip in order to instill the NWO, you know, if that were to come to fruition, I don't know. These are just the things that I hear. Whether it take place on 6/7/2022, which is the birth date, which I exposed to here. Go back and watch the videos, please, if you haven't. They're not very long. Or the other date that I've been hearing is like 8/13, August 13th, because it was on the Trojan horse. There's a picture of Prince out there with the Trojan horse in the background, and I think it said either August 23rd or August 13th or something. But the reason that that's in my head is because with the um, even though in Judaism they do not believe nor study the book of Revelation, it is in the Christian Bible. In the Christian Bible, they talk about Revelation 8:13 being the wisdom of 666, which is 3 plus 18 equals 21, which is the name of King David, and the tree of life and all these things. And the people that are still back there going, whoa, how would God or whoever and show himself to Prince Rogers? It just is. It's because the world we live in isn't what you think. Go and watch The Matrix. Now, granted, it's a bit extreme. Go and watch Alice in Wonderland. It's extreme. But there are people that are Christian. They'll say, oh, well, we don't battle with spirits and we battle with powers and principalities. Okay, but what does that mean to you? Do you have any idea what you're saying? No, most people don't, because they haven't battled anything but their own negativity and the own evil Yetzirah that's in the world to tell you you're no good and to tell you you're fat or lazy or stupid or whatever. And you just look at that and you say, are you out of your mind? My creator created me. Do you know who I am? Do you know the divine DNA that runs through this blood? That evil that's out there that's against you, which is your own mind most of the time, is lying to you because they want to bring you down and suck you down. You guys, it's your job to know that your creator wants you to be effervescent, like a carbonated bubble, like I said yesterday. So sometimes if you have to fake it till you make it, is cool. You can cry, you can be imperfect, you can do all kinds of things so long as you're being honest and good and right and not hurting other people and trying to bring good to the world. And part of that good is listening to me into these videos and knowing that I am the long arm of the creator. I stood in the afterlife place, and it was July 20th, 2010, if you don't know by now. And he said that he was going to need a place to go. I gave him a place to go. And you'll see. I don't have anything else to say right now. I'll see you guys later.